I'll call the Smyth County Board of Supervisor meeting to order. And to start things off, I don't have the names, but someone is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll go do the pledge and Kendra will do
It's actually,
So let's stand for the pledge.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the honor and ability to be involved in working for the good of our county and its citizens. Please grant wisdom and steadfast courage to our leaders. Fill us with your grace and let us never forget that all we do should honor and glorify you, Lord. Place a hedge of protection around our county and its citizens and desire in our hearts to live according to your will. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
It's good to see a few filled seats here tonight. We'll waive any ticketing charge for being here. And we have one of our supervisors wanting to join us electronically, so we need a motion to allow that.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion to second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise. Sounds like it was unanimous. Now we got, I know of no amendments to our agenda. So moving into presentations.
Yeah, I don't see Mr. Rose here. He said he was going to be close, so if it's okay, it'll be we can move on and add him in when he gets here.
And he can buy a supper then.
That'll work.
Okay, moving into the minutes of the previous meeting. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve the previous minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion to second. I gave them 2 or 3 little grammatical corrections. Otherwise, I'm assuming you're with corrections.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to abstain because I don't believe I was here for that meeting.
Okay. We're already at citizens' time.
We got the public hearings.
Oh, jumped right over that. Public hearing for the voting precincts. You want to read the, first off, I'll entertain a motion that we suspend the rules for public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Public hearing now. In case you gonna read it? Or?
I'll have I forgot to bring it with me.
Well,
She can go get it if you want it.
well, we can just quickly explain what we're.
Yeah, I can do a quick
Yeah, well,
summary.
not word for word, but explain to the public what we're doing.
So we have 3 proposed changes to the voting districts, and we have some members of the electoral board and registrar here also. One change being proposed is closing the St. Clair's precinct that's held at the Riverside Community Center, moving that and combining it with Chilhowie. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Williams. The second one is to amend the boundaries of the Chilhowie Magisterial and the North Fork District to match up with the boundaries of the town of Chilhowie. Currently there's 1 or 2 parcels, 1 or 2 voters that are in the North Fork District but live in the town of Chilhowie. And the third one is to related to the West Park and East Park precincts. They're blocks apart really, so it makes more sense to have a better accessible precinct at the East Park, combining the West and the East, closing the Henderson School voting district and everybody voting at the pool rec center. So those are the 3 specific changes. Shannon, did I miss anything?
No, sir. That's all 3.
And I'll say in your packet you do have a draft ordinance. You have some maps that kind of show, and we can share the maps with anybody that's interested in seeing those too.
significantly no big changes other than a couple of places, polling places might be a little bit different.
Yeah, that's it.
That'll be, I'm sure that will be thoroughly advertised when it gets close to the next election, so.
The reason we want to do it this early is we have to send everybody the new voter cards, and I want to try and give the registrar and electoral board enough time to get all that done.
Okay,
Can I ask one question?
go right ahead.
If we were able later to come up with a suitable area for people over in the Riverside District, could we go back and change this?
I'll look at Mr. Williams, is that possible?
It is possible, you just gotta go through the same process.
No public hearing?
Another public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
I
of
don't know
course,
that there will be,
expansive.
but at the same point in time, if we do, you know, right now, I don't see any place over there to hold it, so. But just keeping that, if it does become, something does become available, that would be suitable. Okay.
Okay, we got 3 people wishing to speak. First off, come forward and give us your name and address. First is Vicki Hale.
Oh, I don't need to speak. I'm with the electoral board and someone put my name down.
We want to hear you.
I didn't sign it. Anna Lee signed me up.
Well, Anna Lee wants to speak then. All right, Mr. Wassam.
Okay. Charles Wassam, Wasona, Marion. When I got the agenda, that was the first I'd heard of this. I didn't see anything in the paper about these changes, and I spoke here a few weeks ago and asked, did the Board of Supervisors have anything to do with the registrar's office, and I was left with the impression, no, you don't have any control over that, and they don't have any control over you. It's a completely separate thing. So I was, just wondering how did these changes come up? Did they go through some committee with the Board of Supervisors, or if you want changes, you go to Mr. Williams and say these are the changes that I want, and have a public hearing? Because these changes don't seem worrisome, but there are changes that could be worrisome that I was worried about. And the change that I was worried about was, and it may be in there for all I know, because I've never seen a copy. Did the newspaper report anything on this in the newspaper? Was there any, what's the proposal?
The public notice would have been advertised, but
Yeah.
there wasn't an article.
Right, there wasn't the things that we were gonna discuss, though. The 3 points that he mentioned, the changes, weren't advertised anywhere. So, I mean, it'd be real easy to slip something through that you might not want, because it didn't come through any committee of the Board of Supervisors, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the changes that I was looking for.
The Building and Grounds Committee a couple months ago reviewed it for the Riverside. And as we realized, because Riverside Community Center it's in terrible shape. So as we were looking, we knew we were going to have to do a public hearing here. We also knew there were some issues with the Chilhowie District and the park being so close. So we figured that's when the staff proposed and the registrar proposed to the board to go ahead and do all 3 instead of just one.
Okay. Well, I don't come to all Board of Supervisors meetings, but I just don't remember. Maybe I missed the discussion here. Maybe you didn't have any discussion. I don't know.
Yeah, November, December timeframe.
Well, okay. Well, anyway, the type changes that I would be worried about would be based on the experience that I explained to y'all a couple of months ago. I went and voted, and I voted at the high school here for decades. I knew the people there. Vicki was there most of the time. Ruth Hartsock, I've actually worked the poll there myself occasionally, maybe one year. But I went in this year, and there was a lady there that I didn't recognize. She asked me for identification. I gave her identification. She said that's not acceptable, but it was acceptable. One of the 15 points written on the door to the high school saying these are the 15 things that are allowed, and I had one of them. She wouldn't let me vote until I produced what she wanted, which was a photo ID driver's license, and she had that, those scanners set up there for that. Didn't have any books or anything like they used to have. Okay, so I went ahead and presented my driver's license, and after that I went up to the registrar's office, talked to Vicki, and she talked to Shannon and said, yeah, that is what I showed was a legitimate ID for voting. And here's a person that's sitting at the polling place with the rules posted on the door, and she was telling me that I couldn't vote. Well, there's a whole lot needs to be done about the voting process and eliminate all 15 of those things and just have, or all 14 and have one thing, one identification. But I like going to the same poll, seeing the same people who've been trained, who I know, and they know me, and I know that they're legitimate, and I know I'm legitimate, and they know I'm a legitimate voter, and not having these fly-by-night people come in and vote and go, or mail-ins from all over. I mean, there's been so much fraud in voting across the country this year that I think we ought to keep a very close eye on that. But the another big change that I'd like to see for the benefit of the registrar is paper ballots, no more voting machines. Dominion voting machines are notorious in the circles that study them for the ease with which they can be hacked and meddled with. But as far as the proposal, if it's only those three things, it doesn't have anything to do with Atkins District, fine.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Watson. I've got one more, but I got Roby Parks signed up, but I think, Roby, you're here for citizens time, aren't you?
Yes,
Okay. If you want to speak now, you can for this.
for citizens time.
No, for the precinct change. Well, I'll holler at you when we get to citizens time.
Well, I can wait.
All righty. Anyone else wishing to speak on this precinct change? Here's your chance to speak to us. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Now, backing up, I see our presenters here. By the way, since we got started, we volunteered you to buy a supper since you. Mr. Rose, if you come forward, we'll let you have the floor for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a small handout here, which is, as I promised the last time I was here, the schedule of what we're proposing to do. So. Sure, that'd be great. Okay, you got that? Let's make sure we got that. Is that it? That's the actual request for proposal. So maybe it's, let's go here. No, let's go back.
To the very beginning.
Very beginning. It's going to be the very beginning of that. No, okay, that's the actual draft that we're working on. This is a separate. It's not that. That's not it. I've got copies of that. So maybe I'll just hand this out. Just while I'm handing out, or y'all handing out the schedule, what you see up there, I also have copies of. That is the draft of the request for the banks for the funding. So that's what you've got. And I had brought extra copies for everybody as well for this in case the board members would like to see it. So I'll also hand that out. Okay. All right, I'll let you hand that at some point. All right. Does everybody have a copy? Did I make enough copies there? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I was here last month, and that was wintertime. I'm now here. It's summertime, and you know, it's amazing how many months go by. But on a serious note, my car said 81 degrees as I was coming, which is wild. So I apologize for being a little late here. But what we'd like to do, as I promised the last time, is to provide you with a schedule based upon working with the staff, as well as with bond counsel, which is Spillman Thomas, which is Webster Day and his partners. We worked through all of this, including that what was going quickly through which is the overview of what we're going to send out to the banks with your blessing. And so here we are today at the 23rd. We would like to send this out on March 1st or no later than that. And it's going to go out to all the regional, national, local banks as we've done in the past with you. We will give them roughly 3 weeks. So we get back on the 22nd. They will fill in our specific requests. They will also address security features and refinancing options and what have you. At that point, we are going to evaluate those as we've done in the past in written form, working with staff, working with bond counsel, and then we would be in front of you on the 13th of April at this time. Simultaneous with that, we would have a public hearing being held because again, anytime you borrow money, you need to have a public hearing, as I indicated the last time. We would have that done, and we would recommend, assuming we get bids that we like, we would recommend a winning bidder with all the terms and conditions. Now, the good thing about this, and the thing that we like about this, if we get it, is we will get a known fixed interest rate. So it will not be subject to changing conditions. If it is, we'll make sure they tell us what those conditions are, and working with your staff, we'll evaluate whether or not that's a good deal or not a good deal. If it's not, then we'll go to Plan B, and we'll talk about Plan B on basically April 13th. Having said that, though, we're going to know pretty quickly after March 22nd if we have gotten what we hope to get. It's going to take us literally a day or so to figure out if we've gotten the kinds of things that we want. I personally believe we will, because again, the county is solidly rated. We're in good shape financially. This is an essential function project. And as a result of that, we should get banks showing interest. You'll notice I also said national banks, and part of the reason for that is there are some very good banks in Virginia that have credit limitations that can't go above $5 or $6 million, and so we may not, and we will not most likely get their bids because they just can't meet that requirement. That doesn't mean they wouldn't want to. So I just point that out. So you'll have in front of you on the 13th and in advance, so will the county attorney, working with bond counsel, have all the legal documents necessary so that we collectively, not just Davenport, but bond counsel collectively with you, can make a recommendation and talk about what risks there are with regard to getting into the financing. So hopefully with that said, last time I was here, I talked about the cash flows. To me, I think that is the biggest risk. But the good news is the way we're set up, we, meaning the county, we're able to finance all of this without having to go about and say we've got to rework our finances. We don't need to do that. We're in good shape. We have set up your overall debt portfolio. We're able to layer this in, and we'll be able to show that in specific detail again with absolute numbers. I did that for you last month with an estimated numbers, and my hope is that those estimated numbers, I'm hoping, are higher than what the actual numbers will be. So we'll see. We try to build a cushion in, if you recall. So that's really all I had. Lastly, we've been working with your staff to make sure that when we get these monies in, depending on how fast the dollars have to go out, that they're going to be smartly invested. And we'll be working and talking with the treasurer so that we're all in sync on some strategies. We have not factored in any cash dollars as it relates to investments, but clearly that'll be a positive. So we purposely, in deference to the staff and to the treasurer, let's first get what's coming in terms of the rates, and then we'll figure out that. So that's it, Mr. Atkins and members of the board, and again, always a pleasure to be here. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I guess I got a question for Shawnee. Where does this cash flow stand in regard to our radio system itself? Is it going to pretty well match up that we're going to need the money for the system about when this becomes available, or?
The timing, I would say we will need more in about 8 months, 6 to 8 months. We'll need about $1 million, $1.5 million within the next 3 months, I would say. That's tied back to the dispatch center.
Okay.
And then a larger chunk in about 8 to 12 months.
So really what he's looking at is down, in May or mid-May when the money's available, we'll be investing $8 million of it, and then, okay.
Yep.
That's what I was asking.
That's exactly right. And we've not factored in any earnings for that. We purposely have just said, make believe there's no earnings. There will be earnings. And clearly, when we work with the treasurer and Lisa and all of us, there's going to be positive stuff to come about. And I know that because knowing your treasurer, we're going to make it a really good situation. But we're not factoring that in.
Good.
That's right.
Any questions?
Okay. I don't think I really need a formal action other than the board will have to make the decision, we'll want to make sure that you authorize, Sean to put out the public hearing notices for the 13th. That's, you know, I don't need that action, it's just a matter of making sure y'all know it's gonna go into the newspaper.
It'd be nice if nothing else, if you want to go ahead and have that motion to authorize it. That way we can at least document it in the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Sounds like it was unanimous.
Okay, thank you, y'all be well. Okay.
Thank you for coming down. I apologize for picking at you when you first got here.
All right. It's all right, I know you too well. All right, thank you.
Thanks, David.
Now we're up to citizens' time, I believe. And I've had 3 people sign up for that. Crystal Ferguson, come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, I'm Crystal Ferguson. My address is 201 East Main Street, Marion. I guess just a couple things I haven't, I know y'all were talking about voting earlier. I just want to say how grateful I am to be able to do that today. I'm a person in recovery, and I kind of was trying to keep up with the OAA funding. I kind of thought that maybe touched on tonight. Being able to vote again, being here, not knowing what you've got till it's gone. I was born and raised in Smyth County, and in order for me to get well from my substance abuse disorder, I had to leave. This funding for me means a lot. I feel like people get well better at home. I'd like for that to be an option here for folks who want to learn about recovery being an option, what these OAA fundings could mean to them, to us, to me. It's something I'm very passionate about. I'm just really nervous right now. But I'm just finding out I have a voice. Trying to use it is very scary. But I'm here trying to learn, trying to help. And, you know, I would love to see some aftercare programs. I know we have a great recovery court program here. I'm in with the Appalachian Center for Hope. I love their meetings. It's going to be so great. But the folks there will eventually leave. You know, they won't have that to hold them. You know, once they leave, life happens. And that happened to me. Coming back here, because I went out of state to get well. I came back here, and there's just not a lot here for folks in recovery. After the initial getting well, getting into it, just like Recovery Court, Appalachian Center for Hope, there's going to be a time where you're on your own, and just to have more support here, I would love to see that some of that funding go for stuff like that. I know it would change my life, branch out to my children's life and people that I work with and people I meet at Walmart and behind me in line at McDonald's, and I might pay for their food. You know, that's an option for me today. That's never been an option. And, you know, I always expected the person in front of me to pay for mine, you know, and today it's just different. I would love to be able to share with my knowledge about recovery and a new way of life that's just not really known around here, because a lot of people don't even know what it is and that it's an option. It is an option, and it's real, and your life can be so much better, but a lot of folks here just don't know that because it's not been viable. They've not seen it. They've not seen somebody out there, so I'm trying to be loud as I can. But it is, I try to say what I can even if my voice shakes, because I am scared sometimes. But I am here, and I want to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. dipping my toe in what I can do for my community, because I am a part of it. You know, I'm trying to be a productive citizen of Smyth County again. And I would love for other people to join me that are out there in active addiction to see they can be. You know, Smyth County loves them. I didn't know that. You know, they don't know that. And I just want to be able to help with that. That's all I got. Thanks.
I just want to thank you for being here, and it takes a lot of courage to come and say what you said, and I really admire you for it, and that's what we're looking for in citizens of Smyth County. Thank you so much for being here.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Being nervous, you sure do talk well.
Thank you.
I wish I was that nervous sometime.
Also, yeah, you did speak very well, and thanks for having the courage to come up here and share your story with us. I've known Crystal for a long time, and I've followed her through a lot of her journey along the ways, just trying to keep up and everything, and what you've been able to overcome and do, the positives and everything that you're able to reflect back and share with your community and everything is just amazing. And hopefully you will continue to do so, and like you said, with your involvement with the Appalachian Center for Hope and other programs that have been implemented and will be implemented, you'll be able to get others involved and get those moving along. But thank you so much for speaking.
Thank you.
All righty, next on the list is Emily.
I've got a knee that hates me, but I'll haul up here anyway.
Name and address.
Annalee DeBoard, 343 College Street, Marion. I'd like to thank you guys for even listening to me the last time I was here. Whoa, hello. And I've got some topics that you all might be interested in that will be at the museum this year. Betsy White from the William King has agreed to come. They've asked us to find Marion Mets baseball information and speakers. The Blue Ridge Discovery Center, the history of local moonshining, and that's going to be kind of a cool display. Madam Russell, since we raised enough money for the stone, somebody said, well, who is she? And so we'll try to do a program on that. And the Battle of Kings Mountain and the Over Mountain Men all tie together. The history of Mountain Dew, and I know we did that a few years ago, but we really haven't done a lot since 2020, so we'll kind of recycle some of these. Also, Isaac Freeman's going to come tell us tales. Carrie Sparks will talk about plants and herbal remedies. Daniel Shue is out of Bristol. He's a realtor and he restores old homes. So he's going to come talk about if you live in an old house or how to fix them up. The polio outbreak that hit Whitful in the 1950s. We're going to try to get them to come down. Updates on the Settlers Museum. Ken Hall will talk about the Ogden House. And next year is the 150th anniversary of the Bank of Marion's founding. So they're going to put together a presentation. So they're kind of different from what we usually have had, but hopefully it'll be fun and y'all can come. Also, I need to get one of these. So if you'll, last week I know you were listening to it, but and I'll leave one for Bill and Chris. I didn't catch it last week, but these are just, and you can say the word cheap. I am. I'd rather hand deliver them than pay postage. So we kind of keep. But we have started our big membership drive.
Thank you.
So this is y'all's invitation if you would like, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There we go. Sir, here's one for you. If you'll hand one to the gentleman behind you. Do you like history? Yes. I love it. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
I thought you was gonna come and celebrate the county's birthday today.
Well, I could. I thought John had it on. But don't expect, unless a miracle happens, don't expect the 200th anniversary to be as fun as the 100th anniversary. They have parades in every, I mean, Stoughton had a parade, Chilhowie had a big parade, Marion had a huge parade, and I mean, they asked me to go find out what was done 100 years ago, and it was like beauty pageants and baby contests and square dancing, and I'm like, I'm not sure how much of that would go, but hey, if you want to help with that, we will gladly put you to work. And if you're ever in the museum, we have the big red copy of everything that was put together for that 100th anniversary. So it's pretty fun to go and look. And the book was restored. They said, I'm not sure where John Graham sent it off to have it restored, but the old book had like Scotch tape holding the articles down. They've redone that, and it's fun to just sit and look. But thank you.
But you know, today is the
100th,
200th,
191st.
191, yeah.
when the House of Delegates or whoever recognized us as a county, so.
Right, yeah. So,
I
happy.
just thought sure that's what she's gonna talk about.
I could have. I've been trying to get all these things handed out.
Charlie was in that beauty contest.
You didn't hear what the mayor said last week, did he? Did you?
No.
The picture, the big poster I had with the gentleman, the John Montgomery Preston sitting on the front porch. Mayor Helms goes, looks like Charlie.
I missed that, wait till I talk.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And Roby, you're next.
Roby Parks Jr., 187 Churchland Drive. Thank you for letting me speak. Mr. Adkins and Mr. Williams, I've talked to both of you before. I think we're kind of at a standstill on this over the county attorney. We had went to court once. One of the individuals that was involved with this has passed away. But I'd like to see if we can't get it pushed through and get something done. I mean, the trailers are still sitting on the state right-of-way. That is a safety issue. I know the county has been up there, state police, and Friday the 17th of this month there was one of the porta potty trucks come up. I don't know if anything had leaked out on the ground out of the camper or not, but I did see them hook a hose up. That house has no electricity now, so I assume no running water, and there's trash being piled up on the road again. And I don't know if you can do anything, or if, I think I talked to you before about getting hold of VDOT. I mean, you need to ride up there again yourself. When you come down the curve from the turnaround, it is a blind spot with that camper sitting there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, last time I was up there, Roby, you couldn't hardly get by because they were parked.
Well, they park out in the road.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been told, you know, by the county and the state police, if they park there, you know, to call them. But I mean, you can't do that 24/7. I know our sheriff's department can't be there 24/7. Neither can the state police. Everybody is short-handed. I mean, the state department can't even clean the ditch out up through there. So when it rains, it's out in the road.
Yep. They did back off on that little extra entrance way that they tried to put in there, didn't they?
Well, they cut some trees there and they tried to go up it, but you got stuck. But they haven't done no more.
Yeah.
But now there is a guy living in the camper at this time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But
So
they
this is parked right on the road. Let's see.
they haven't hauled no trash off, and I don't know when. They pile it up out there and burn it. And it's going to be warm weather, and I know it's going to start smelling.
And they're within 600 yards of a convenience station.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sad part.
Well, you got a church there. I'd love to see the church bought that.
Yeah.
But
You
I
said
mean,
was it a septic truck or?
as a truck come up there, and I've got a picture of it on my phone, not a good one, but I do know the numbers off of it. It was a R&R.
Okay.
But I didn't. I've got a picture.
What are they pulling from?
A camper.
They're pulling from
The guy was living in a camper.
Blackwater tank.
And then, they have another one there that they've got piled full of junk, and, well, you know where the cinder block building is?
Yep.
They pile their trash out there and burn it, and I mean, not trying to sound bad or nothing, but I mean, where they go to the restroom at, I don't know. And I mean, my well's in my front yard.
Well, I know, I've seen where underneath the camper, when it didn't get pumped in time, they just opened it up and let it run out on the road there.
Well, I've had the health department up there twice. I mean, I've talked to Mr. Williams, and he advised me to get a hold of the health department, but,
Just seems like a lot of people are dropping the ball, I mean, just, I know I've been asking about it, so
yeah.
it gets talked about, but that's the problem, it's just getting talked about.
Yeah.
And I sympathize with you. I don't live too far from there myself.
Well, you know my mom passed away.
Yep.
I guess I'm gonna keep that property so I can push that, but I'm probably gonna let my daughter live in it. And I'm gonna move into my mom and dad's house.
But you don't want your daughter to
I
have
don't
the
want
same
my daughter
problem.
putting up that mess neither.
No. We're gonna continue to push, yes, sir.
This is on Churchland Drive?
Yes.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
we lost my memory, and I gotta go back and look at my stuff. We were chasing somebody down Louisiana that became an owner of this property.
Right.
And I think that's where I stalled out on,
Okay.
but I'll get on it. I appreciate the reminder today, and we'll try to make some noise on it, see if we can chase that person down there. I know we had a couple phone numbers for, someone went down there and passed away, and we found the children and found some phone numbers, so. We had called, but no one had called us back, so we will go at it again, so.
What's it?
Just out of curiosity, the individual who's living there, do they own the property?
No, she is a caretaker, Stella Farmer.
Yep.
And,
Taxes paid up on it and everything?
I honestly couldn't tell you that, sir.
There's all kinds of vehicles.
Go at it right there, just check on the taxes.
But, I didn't know the power was off till I seen it. They didn't have no lights over there, and I got out there in my driveway one day, and the pole's at my driveway. And I looked up and you could tell where Appalachia had cut that, so I assumed they wanted them to do an upgrade because it's probably got the screw-in fuse, 60 amp service, and you can't have that no more. You gotta have at least 100 amps.
Yeah, I'd suggest checking on taxes and stuff, see if there's some way to get in there and put a little pressure.
I do know that she was in court here a while back for other matters. But,
She knows the law better than we do.
yeah.
Sooner or later, you're gonna have to slip up somewhere.
Well, I'm surprised somebody else ain't been back up there. I don't wanna say a whole lot in here, but, maybe they will.
Well, we just hope we get a good resolution to this without anything happening bad, let's put it that way.
Well, not gonna happen on my part.
Good, good. I worry about that, so,
Nah.
okay.
I mean, you know I've had problems
Oh, yeah.
before over the dogs, but, I did talk to Roy Evans, and Roy told me, said, you're in your yard and you feel threatened, and it comes towards you, you do what you gotta do.
They used to have some awful big dogs there.
They still do.
Okay.
Actually, about 11 of them, that's what she got in trouble over.
Well, Roby, we
Might be
thank you,
another way
and we'll
right
keep
there.
pushing it.
And thank you, and one other thing, I'd like to thank the young lady that spoke first. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Hearing none, I'll close citizens' time. Committee report, building and ground.
Is that me? You wanna read it?
Either one.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You do a better job with Cliff Notes, not that.
Okay, so the Building and Grounds Committee did have a meeting on February 16th at 1 o'clock. They did have a few action items to consider. The first one deals with the library and some renovations, repairs needed. Mr. Greer presented some quotes regarding the elevator issues. If you remember, about just over a year ago, we replaced the elevator system, not the actual car, but everything underneath the elevator. It only had a 1-year warranty, and 1 year plus 28 days or so, we had an issue where it failed, the elevator failed. So we had an agreement with the library that we will add the elevator maintenance, we'll propose adding elevator maintenance to the county's contract. We already have 5 elevators, I believe, that we deal with, so at $100 a month, we can get any repairs needed and monthly maintenance on the elevator. So if this happens again, we won't have to pay for it. It would fall underneath our agreement. So after discussion, that was $100 a month. After discussion, Ms. Deal made a motion to approve the maintenance service agreement, and Mr. Sturgill seconded it. So there's a recommendation from committee to move forward on that, adding them to our overall contract.
All righty, we have a motion from the committee. Any discussion? Just why would we not want to do it?
Does that just out of curiosity, may just over that, but is that just for, the monthly cost at $100, just for the labor?
It basically, it's an on-call, in my opinion. So you can pay $100, and I think they come quarterly to do inspections, but we pay $100 a month. If anything happens to the system, they come and fix it on their dime. It's an insurance policy, in essence, in my opinion. And we have it on other elevators in the highway.
I agree, I don't know why you wouldn't.
In other words, it'd probably be a lot more if it's just this one elevator by itself.
Yes, all of them, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, likewise. Sounds like it carried.
Okay, next item is dealing with the library also. Their basement HVAC unit has failed, so Mr. Greer went out and found some quotes, some concerns that he had. He had one quote that was a lower amount, but the lead time was about 20 months, and literally. And I don't think the library and the paper, it's the Copenhagen room in that area of the library that has a lot of the more historic documents. I don't know that it can go for 20 months with no AC for the humidity control. Mr. Greer went out and he found a few other options. He did find something that is available immediately. It was a few $100s more, but the total cost was $69.19 for the parts, and it took up to $15,000 total for delivery, installation. So talking through that, the committee did agree that that would be a better option. Following that discussion, Ms. Deal made a motion to recommend the replacement of the HVAC system using supplemental appropriation funds up to $15,000, with Mr. Sturgill seconded it. And again, another recommendation from committee.
All righty, once again, we have a committee recommendation. Any discussion? This is up to $15,000 to replace that basement air HVAC system. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, likewise. All righty, thank you.
Third item is deals with this building, the Morrison building, and the roof. We have some loose tiles, some slate tiles that are sitting on the roof. There are a couple pieces that are just being held on by the snow guards, right?
Correct.
So, you know, a 12-pound slate tile coming down from 55 feet can make some damage if it hits a car, or God forbid if it hits an individual. So Mr. Greer went through and found, actually tried to get some quotes from several companies. Finally was able to get Leonard Roofing to come up and give a quote, $11,080 to repair make all necessary repairs, and replace the roof, the ridge vent, the ridge guard on the roof. following the conversations, Ms. Deal did make a recommendation to move forward with that at $11,080. Mr. Sturgill seconded it, so it's a recommendation from committee on that.
Okay, we have another committee recommendation. I don't think we need it now. I saw them up there the other day fixing it, so,
We did pull the trigger on a little bit for the emergency side.
and I think that's good because you never know when.
I was worried about that slate tile.
Yeah, it was a safety issue.
Yeah,
big time.
I think you knew we would have to do something, but I had to pick at you on that because I came in the other day and there's two guys standing up on top of the roof and I thought, what is going on?
That's a long way up too.
Yes, wouldn't have been me up there. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Sounds like it was unanimous.
So the last item that we discussed deals back with the feasibility study, the building use study that we've been working on. We presented change order number 2 with AECom for the committee's review, and basically what that is, if you, in a simple world, we looked at this building, the cost to renovate this building fully to what we need is far and above what I think the board felt necessary to spend. So the option would be to find 2 or 3 other buildings that we might be able to renovate, acquire, renovate, and move into. But we need some help with the reviews. Is this building A big enough? How can we fit in it? Or social services or school board, whoever is. So the quote was up to 3 building reviews at a total cost of $36,024. They did say that if they were able to do all of them at the same time rather than coming back and forth, it would be a whole lot cheaper. So we might be able to get it cheaper than the $36,000. But following conversation, Mr. Sturgill did make a recommendation to move forward with the $36,000 change order, and Ms. Deal seconded the motion as a recommendation from committee.
Okay, once again, we have a committee recommendation, and since Phil's not here to say it, sometimes it seems silly to have to get these studies done, and all these other things done, spend the money on that when we could put it to the building itself or whatever, but I guess that's the way we make sure we're doing the right thing.
I'd hate to buy a building that was half the size of what we needed and not be able to fit everything that we needed into it.
So that gives us some assurance that when we do pull the trigger on a piece of property, it will fit our needs.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of this extra $36,000 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? All righty, sounds like it was unanimous.
That was all the committee had.
We all need to get busy. All right, moving on to the budget committee now. And that's me, but you do such a good job.
Have at it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the budget committee did have a meeting on February 16th. They had 2 items for discussion. The first one was budget amendment number 9. It was a simple budget amendment. The first item is ESSER funds from the schools. They are asking to amend their budget by $1 million so they can allocate those ESSER funds that are getting ready to come in from projects they've been working on. I think there's about $8.5 million left of ESSER funds that we'll be working through, whether that's this fiscal year or next fiscal year. But I think we'll work it with the budget amendment process mostly. The other item is a grant that John Graham's office received for preservation of some of the oldest records in the courthouse vault. That was $52,000. So the total budget amendment number 9 was $1,052,000. Following discussion, Mr. Sturgill made a motion to recommend approving, while Ms. Deal seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved as a recommendation from committee.
Now, us approving this, I'm just being sort of planning ahead, so to speak. The $1 million, we probably need to approve and appropriate, do we not?
Yeah, part of the resolution does have a appropriation.
I missed
language.
that somewhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the last be it further resolved.
Okay, I'm just looking here, I'm not looking at the resolution. Does that include the 52,000?
Yes, sir.
And the next question, wasn't John here last month with some kind of, is this the same one he was here with last time, or?
He talked about that he had gotten, and this lets him spend the money, basically. Yeah.
Okay, I was hoping he'd gotten another one.
No.
I could just hope. All righty, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise?
Okay.
All righty.
We had a few other discussion items. One of them dealing with the Marion Intermediate School, and my plans to forward a request to the ARPA committee. The school board has is allocating 500,000 of their ESSER funds toward the demolition and potential reuse. The school board, I'm going to propose to the ARPA committee that they consider recommending a similar amount to match the school boards as a partnership. No action was taken on that. The final item we discussed, and we've talked about this a few times in the past, but to formalize an agreement between the school board and the county board of supervisors to officially allow the school board to use take any unused funds from one fiscal year, automatically roll it over to the next year, knowing that those funds will be used for capital expenditures, for one-time capital needs. We've done it, excuse me, as a practice in the past, but I think it'd be good. We're having some good times between the two boards. You know, but to be frank, the two boards get along very well. You know, now's the time to take action on something like that to formalize it for the future, just in case you know, the boards change in 10 years or what have you. So there was a draft agreement in the packet, and that was presented to the budget committee. Following some discussion, Ms. Deal did make a motion to approve the policy. We had a few minor amendments. Mr. Adkins seconded the motion, and Mr. Sturgill wanted to show up as abstaining due to any potential conflict. So, but that is still a recommendation to approve from the committee.
Okay. That is committee recommendation. Everyone understand everyone understand what we're doing there? We're basically putting a policy in place like some of our other policies that come year end, if they have funds left over, or we're gonna fund, not year end, but we're gonna fund 115% of the minimum daily requirements for the school board. The state comes out with what minimum funding has to be, and we're saying we're gonna give you more and we're gonna let you carry it any over that you don't spend. And we have done that for years. The school board has used that money to put windows in about all the schools, really. They put some air conditioning in with it. They actually have used that money to do things that they can't do during the normal school year when kids are in, or students are in the building. It's been a win-win all the way around. Because they save that money so they can get these projects done. At least I think they do. And it gets projects done for them. It gets money that we may have gotten the money back, but we'd had to end up writing it back. It's a good deal for us. So that's my commercial for the day. Any questions on that?
I have one. Mr. Hutt, I thought I heard you say that these funds are earmarked for a one-time use project?
Yeah.
So it's not like they could have an ongoing project from one summer to the next?
Well, it can, if it's construction type, yes. It will not be used to hire new teachers or to pay for recurring costs.
In infrastructure support of physical?
Yeah, capital needs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I think we worded capital.
Some years, like we've done one side of the windows in the building, and the next summer, the back side of the building. Does that make sense? Because you don't have enough funds to do all at one time. So in that type of situation, it would be the same project, just in different phases.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the one problem I had, and I'm gonna put it out here now, and that's why it's in policy, so I have heard through 25 years that one board, us, cannot obligate the next board. By putting this in place, we're doing that, but the next board, if they don't wanna do it, just has to go back and change our policy. It's in the policies that we adopt on January 1, the first of every year. So if a new board, we all get voted out of office, and a new board comes in, when they start to adopt their policies and procedures, they just exclude that or do what they want to, so we're not obligated any more than it's there, and they just have to take it out. But it gives the schools, I think, and us too, for that matter, when we're doing budgeting, to know a little bit of what's down the road. We can plan for the future instead of waiting for the last minute to do things. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Likewise.
Abstention.
We had one that didn't want to vote on it.
One who can't vote on it.
All righty. That's for the budget committee, isn't it?
Yes, sir. That's it.
Ordinance committee.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Williams to do this one, so you can hear somebody different.
All right, good evening. So the ordinance committee met on February 16th, 3 o'clock. Mr. Atkins and Mr. Sturgill were present. Some of you may recall at the last board meeting, during board comment time, there was discussion about a situation with a building permit applicant out of Sugar Grove that encountered a bit of an issue with wanting to put an accessory building on a vacant lot. And so that was the first item that the committee debated. And they discussed several potential options to address that situation. But ultimately, Mr. Atkins made a motion to schedule a public hearing with the Planning Commission on March 23rd to consider amending the zoning ordinance to exempt adjacent properties from the special use permit requirement. Chilhowee District Supervisor Michael Sturgill seconded the motion, and it was unanimously approved. So to put that in another way, what the concept is right now, if you have a vacant lot and you want to put what we typically consider to be an accessory building, you have to apply for a special use permit. The committee decided that if you happen to have your principal structure contiguous to your vacant lot, then that would be exempt if this proposed amendment is ultimately adopted. But if your principal structure and your vacant lot are separated by whatever distance, then that special use permit would still be required.
I have a question.
Sure.
Just doing a little of my own looking around and everything with this. If that was to go forward, does it change the definition of an accessory building in any way?
No. I mean,
because everything from what I've looked at as far as legal terms, I just wasn't sure if it changed anything from being on the same parcel, being on a separate parcel, if it would change anything.
I think you could show it as an accessory to the adjacent parcel.
Okay.
Because the adjacent parcel is where the primary structure would be. I think that's how I've looked at it in the past. But
right.
Well, you bring up a question I had, because as we mull this over, I worry that we may pass some alliteration of this thing, and we leave the phrase accessory building like it is, and we do something, and somebody comes in and they want to build a 40,000 square foot accessory building, and I have a problem with that. I think we need if we're going to do anything, we need to define accessory building a little better.
I've also done just some other searching around on some stuff and looked at other jurisdictions, not anywhere around us, but they had some ordinances in place that limited the size of the building, I guess, without having a special use permit. And it could be just, if it is on a separate parcel, it could be no greater than 50% of the parcel size, or no greater than, or no greater than, say, whatever the board would recommend, maybe 1,000 square feet or whatever. So I think there's a lot of options out there that would sort of keep us, from what you're talking about.
Yeah. I just think we need to be careful.
Yeah, and I think too, just the more I got to looking at it, I think if we don't have those certain things in place, that we could get into a situation.
Yeah, I agree
with that 100%.
So a couple thoughts, and that honestly was one of the reasons for the special use permit, because whenever you grant a special use permit, you as a board have the ability to put conditions on that. So, if we're gonna create an exception, and you want to regulate size, then we can put together some suggestions. One that immediately comes to mind is that it can't be larger than the principal building that it's contiguous to. So if you have a 1,000 square foot house and you want to put an accessory building on the vacant lot next to you, you would be limited to nothing larger than the principal structure.
I had that also, I forgot to mention that, yeah.
Oh, you wanna put a barn there for one animal? Limited to what size barn you could have?
So barns are
It's
different
it's
realm.
different than a.
Yeah, so typically we exempt barns, from a building code
Barn, just,
standpoint.
Maybe have one donkey or something. Somebody has as a pet, he won't put a barn over there and you could.
So for agriculture operations, they're kind of treated differently. If you come in with a legit farm, and you want to build a barn, no problem. That's your principal building. So no problem. We issue an agricultural building permit, or zoning permit rather, and you meet the setback requirements and you're good to go. The problem is, this is a small lot. This is like a half-acre lot that we can't legitimately call a farm. But yeah, if you had 100 vacant acres and you came in and wanted to build a barn of any size, there's a mechanism in place to issue you a permit. This is just a personal use garage or storage building or workshop that if it were put on the principal building lot, it would not be an issue. We could issue a permit. Because it's being put on a vacant lot, that's what's creating this issue. And today, there's a mechanism in place, that is to apply for a special use permit. That's the problem that he voiced and what he asked to be addressed, and this is what the committee recommended.
And we're basically, as a committee, what we're recommending is let's put it out there for public discussion. Doesn't mean we're gonna change it, don't mean we're gonna, we've had 4 or maybe 5 since we've had building zoning. So, are we panicking on something let's get it out and let the public tell us how they feel about it. That's my thinking.
And yes, and that's a good point, and that's exactly what the committee's recommendation is, to simply schedule a public hearing with the planning commission next month to hear comments.
I think she would try to keep it.
Are you with us, Lori?
Yeah, Lori, we're seeing you, but we can't hear you. Let's see, is that volume up? Hold on a second. Are you there? Nope. Where's the speaker?
3 dots.
Where's the 3 dots?
3 dots right there. Settings. And then.
It looks like
It's on the TV.
speaker's muted on the desktop, does that change
It looks,
anything?
looks like to me that she's
How's
muted.
that? Yeah, check the volume on your.
Was, she's not.
I can be a better show, so this is great.
Hit the test button.
Mark is on.
See if it's not.
Yeah, there you go. I think it's.
There we go. All right, we got you now, Lori.
We'll let you talk now.
Are you gonna record all of my affirmative votes that I've been
Yes,
voting on?
we did.
We can watch them.
Just have a quick question, going back to limiting the size. I'm playing devil's advocate here. What if I'm a car fanatic and I prefer to have a Corvette and 2 trucks and 4 mopeds, and I want a 4-bay garage, but I prefer to live in a tiny home? So now you're gonna tell me that I've gotta build my garage smaller than my tiny home?
Either that or you can allow a special use permit for
Anything larger.
anything bigger than the primary structure.
Right. But yes, to answer your question, yes, if a size restriction was put on this, and it was what we just discussed, and that's no larger than the principal building, if you live in an 800 square foot tiny home, you would be limited to an 800 square foot accessory building.
I just think that's something that we need to think about. And again, I'm gonna say this, I have a real problem with limiting, I understand we wanna have the rules in place for, you can't put a strip club beside an elementary school, or you can't put an asphalt plant in the middle of a neighborhood, but at the same time, I have a real problem with somebody who owns property and all they wanna do is build a garage and they can't. That's frustrating. I know they can, but we make it challenging. And from an economic development standpoint, I've heard comments in the past, it's a challenge to come into Smith County and do anything. And I think we make it too hard sometimes. We say we want growth and we wanna do all these things, but we make it really hard for our citizens to do something simple like build a garage. And, you know, we have all these other rules in place. I think we need to really take a hard look at some things.
That's why we have the public hearing.
Yeah, we already limit them to a setback, you know, certain setbacks.
And that was part of the debate of the committee as well. So typically an accessory building on the same lot as the principal building gets a reduced setback requirement. It only has to be 5 feet from the lot lines. But the committee's recommendation was that if this amendment is ultimately adopted, that the same setbacks for a principal building be applied on that vacant lot. So 15 feet if this is ultimately approved.
Any other comments? We have a motion from the committee to direct a public hearing, I guess is a good way to say it. Hearing no other comments, all those in favor of a public hearing signify by saying aye. Aye. We actually got you this time, Lori.
Wonderful, thank you.
And looks like it passed unanimously.
So the second item that the committee discussed that day was solar farms. If you haven't heard, there has been a lot of interest in Smyth County for proposed solar farms. Typically, they like to look at the areas that surround our substations. And so many jurisdictions are starting to adopt ordinances that regulate solar farms. And so Mr. Utt happened to be at a conference recently and ran into Scott Simpson, Halifax County, who has seen, I think, 18 or 19 solar farms now being developed in his community. And they have worked to adopt an ordinance to regulate solar farms. And so we have borrowed a copy of theirs and we've amended that to sort of fit into the Smyth County zoning ordinance. And ultimately, the committee recommended that we schedule a public hearing to consider those amendments to the zoning ordinance as well. So that's the recommendation of the committee.
All right, any discussion? I know I belong to another organization who just likes the use of the phrase solar farm because it's not farming. It's using good farmland for a non-agricultural purpose. Solar facilities maybe, but not farm. But anyway.
Okay, we'll work on that term.
I was guilty.
Actually, the draft ordinance does say solar energy facility.
There you go.
I'm just as guilty, Mr. Williams, of using the phrase. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of us having a public hearing signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Likewise. Gotcha.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Solid Waste Committee.
Okay, so the Solid Waste Committee had a meeting on the 16th and they just had one item that was a pretty quick discussion topic. As you remember, we've had to go through some issues or some hurdles to find a landfill when the Bristol landfill closed. One of those discussions that we had months ago was with the New River Resource Authority in Dublin, their Cloyd's Mountain landfill, and they have gone through the public hearing process and DEQ permitting to allow to change their permit to allow solid waste from Smyth County to allow us as a potential member, or not member, a customer. In the Solid Waste Committee reviewed the draft agreement, which is in your packet. It's pretty standard. Had a few changes from the county attorney, and this doesn't require us to take our waste to Dublin, but it gives us that option that if something happens to Blountville or for any other reason, we have the ability to at least haul our solid waste somewhere. So following discussion, Mr. Call made a motion to recommend the approval of the contract authorizing the chairman and the county attorney to execute the agreement, and Mr. Atkins seconded it, and it's unanimously approved as a recommendation from committee.
I think the key thing that Sean said there was, this is not obligating us, we're not moving away from Bluntville. But this gives us a backup if the state of Tennessee says we're not taking out of state trash, or, same thing happens down there, and happens at the city of Bristol, we have somewhere to go. I think it's important that you plan ahead, and that's
That's what this is.
as far as I know, there's no cost. They have spent a lot of money getting us qualified. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but
They did.
they've spent a lot on us and not asked us to pay it. So big thank you there to have a backup that we may never use, but they're working with us on it. So we need to remember this down the road. Any other comments or questions?
I'd like to ask one, out of curiosity, how's the cost of them, how would it compare?
Yeah, so what we pay in Bluntville is just under $27 a ton, and New River Resource Authority, they charge the same amount to anybody that's not a member, and I think that's $35 a ton, $34 a ton. So it's a little bit more, it's a little farther away.
Plus the extra distance.
Okay, that was gonna be
So
my next
it's not
question.
necessarily our top, it wouldn't be our first choice. Bluntville still makes a whole lot more sense, but it's still an option.
I mean, after we encountered the issues with Bristol, we just felt it was best to have a backup plan.
100%, I agree.
Because there was a lot of scrambling, to find an alternate location when they announced that we couldn't bring trash to Bristol anymore.
I myself have a worry about being out-of-state trash to that landfill.
Could be.
Quite honestly, we went through a lengthy process to get approved.
Right.
We were banned in Tennessee.
Well, I could see, Nashville saying, hey, we don't want any, and that's all, you got 2 weeks to find somewhere else. I'm glad we've already went down that road a little ways.
Yeah, we had to get certain products tested and proven to the state of Tennessee that it was acceptable.
Yeah. All righty. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I had a silly question as I was reading, as I was saying who voted for it. We didn't have to go through any kind of, put out a request for bids or anything on that, did we?
This is a governmental agency.
Okay, so we're good in that respect. That just went through my brain, I thought.
But we did when we initially established or tried to establish a relationship with whoever. Ultimately, they didn't do it because we were outside of their DEQ permitting area.
Okay.
So when they recognized that, they said, look, we still would like to accommodate you if possible. So he actually started the process to include us. It's taken this long to amend the DEQ permit.
Okay.
But yeah, anybody that wanted to take our trash had the ability to put in a bid. Ultimately, Bluntville was the only one.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were staying above board there. All right, I'm sorry to.
No, that's a good question.
And that was all for the Solid Waste Committee. Now we're on to the National Opioid Settlement Resolution.
Okay, so we talked at the last meeting about the additional settlements that are being worked through with Walmart, CVS, Teva, Walgreens, and there's a fifth that's,
Allergan.
what is it?
Allergan.
Yes, Allergan. This was similar to the other opioid settlements that I think we passed a resolution for those about a year ago. So this would basically says that we'll participate in the settlement agreement. I don't know if Mr. Farthing has anything else to add to it, but it's recommended by our attorneys on the settlement portion to go ahead and adopt the ordinance, or not ordinance, but the resolution, and get them back. If everyone in the state approves this, just like the last settlements, and I think there's like a 25% incentive and some other financial incentives to go ahead and do it.
All right. Now we need a motion on this one.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
This money is earmarked same as the other?
Same, yeah, it'll have the same expectations and requirements as the other funds that we're already receiving. The current money, 85% of it has to be spent toward opioid mitigation strategies. If you spend 100% or dedicate 100% of the money, then you get another bonus incentive from the state opioid abatement authority. So we've adopted the 100% version. So I expect we'll be doing the same thing with this.
Yeah,
I don't know how much money this one will end up with. But.
We got a unique situation where we can do that with this new facility we're trying to establish. That really helps us get further down the road and help all of Southwest Virginia, not just Smyth County. I think it's a good thing. With, you know, you turn the TV on, it's some, excuse the phrase, some druggie's done something. If we have something here to help all of Southwest Virginia with that issue, that is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of adopting this ordinance, this resolution, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All righty, sounds like once again it was unanimous. New business, term contract for engineering and architectural services.
Okay, so we've been working through the RFP process to update our term contracts, and that's basically, that's your on-call services for architects and engineers. That way you don't have to do an RFP for every little project that we need some help with. As we work through the review process, we came out with recommendations for 3 architectural firms and 4 engineering firms. For the architectural side is AECOM, who did our building use study. The Thrasher Group, you may remember them a few months ago from West Virginia. They had a project manager that attended a board meeting and introduced themselves. And then Mr. Cameron Wolf for architecture. On engineering side, recommendation to have TRC / formerly known as Draper Aiden Associates, AECOM, the Lane Group, they're the ones that are doing our water study, and CHA, they are the engineering firm that designed the Adwolf sewer project. What I'd like to ask from the board is authorization to execute the same term contract that Mr. Simpson put together 10 years ago that's worked really well with each of these, and be able to, what those do is it's a 1-year contract that are renewable up to 4 additional years, so 5-year agreement potential. I'm just looking for authorization to execute those 7 agreements.
And that doesn't preclude a new firm opening up and come in wanting to get into the process, does it? Yeah.
In order to get in as a term contract, we'd have to do another RFP process. It does, honestly, we probably will do it every 3 years anyway, instead of waiting the 5 years. This was done just before I began at the county, so yeah, we're on a 3-year process now.
Okay. Comments, questions? Have a motion to approve putting Sean into this?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All righty, any discussion? Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? Unanimous. Oh, now for the bad part, a report from our county attorney.
Roscoe said I couldn't say much.
I'm not gonna let him talk tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to report at this time. Happy to entertain any questions if you have any.
Any questions by anyone?
Yes, I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead, Lauren.
I'm just curious if we can get an update on Quill Run.
Yes, I was looking at last week and didn't move on it, but I have a motion for default judgment on Quail Run to file. So that's prepared and drafted, and I looked at it last week. I just need to file it. So hopefully I'll get that done next week. If I don't think I'll get it done tomorrow, but that's where we're at on Quail Run.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Our attorney. Okay, hearing none, moving into the county administration staff report.
Okay, you have a copy of my memo. Ms. Hill, I'll get this email to you for your information. But before I start on this, I would like to, if you don't mind, if we could go back on the public hearing that we just held earlier for the precinct changes. It might help if the board is amenable to it. Mr. Farthing has to send a notice to the Attorney General to get some, I guess, form letter returned.
Right, just to approve the change, the attorney, it's a shorter system to get that precinct change approved.
So what I'd like to do is if the board is fine with it, waiving the rules of public hearings and go ahead and take an action on that draft ordinance that was in the packet, and that way Mr. Farthing can go ahead and submit that to the Attorney General's office.
So the motion would be to approve the ordinance as amended, contingent upon approval by the Attorney General's office.
Yep. But first you need to waive the rules of the public
I was
hearings.
gonna say, we had to wait for the public hearing first.
Well, that's the one that we held earlier tonight. We didn't take any action tonight earlier. So I'm just saying, I think it'd be better to go ahead and get authorization for Scott to be able to send it to the Attorney General's office. But he can't send anything if you don't approve an ordinance.
So you're wanting us to waive the rules and it,
Please.
Move to change, waive the rules, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion to waive the rules of the public hearing and vote tonight. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed likewise? All right, now I'll entertain another motion.
I move we, present the,
Adopt the ordinance as amended, contingent upon approval by the Attorney General's office.
correct.
Second.
Exactly what we wanted to say. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It sounds like it was unanimous.
Okay, the next item, we talked, Mr. Atkins asked at the last board meeting about crime data he hadn't seen, which it was a good question. It's not been reported as much since COVID. It's one of those things that kind of fell by the wayside when COVID hit life. But in your packet, you have we've compiled a spreadsheet showing some of the these are arrests per 100,000 citizens. That's how the state police is able to compare a town the size of Saltville to a county the size of Fairfax to be able to show per thousand population. You'll see, of course, 2018, 2019, relatively high. 2020, the numbers for everyone almost dropped. Certainly for us, we're on the ticker, coming back up a little bit for Smyth County, but we can get some more data if you'd like. What you have, it's after that, there's 4 pages, one from each of those years, 21, 20, 19, and 18, showing the actual crime reporting that the sheriff's office has to provide to the state police. This is available for all 346 communities, cities, towns, and counties in the Commonwealth. So we can compare ourselves to a lot of different things if you'd like, but this at least gets you a feel for the type of data that's available. I thought that'd be good just to share with the board. And if you'd like, we can, the sheriff offered to come tonight. I told him if the board wished, it might be a good time, let the board absorb this and maybe come to a future meeting just to talk about how things are going in the county.
I just find it hard, not hard to believe, but I found it interesting that the rate per 100,000 for the county is lower than for the town of Marion. And in 2020, also the town of Saltville, we dropped down. I mean, interesting to have this look at, you know, the question is, what can we do, what can the sheriff do to move us to the bottom of that stack, so to speak? And I think he's trying, but may need our support a little bit. That's what I was getting at there. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Next item I wanted to bring to the board's attention, we've had some conversations with Sandy Bryant. She's the executive director of the Mount Rogers Community Services Board. And they are working on a region-wide effort to use some of, Crystal was talking about the OAA funds, the Opioid Abatement Authority funds. That's the money that went to the state, similar to what we're getting, but a much larger chunk. And there are grant funds, grant programs out there. I think it's 1st of May is the grant application deadline. But Community Services, they're looking at doing a region-wide program, 6 or 7 different directions, but they're trying to put a cumulative partnership together. They have commitments from Grayson County, City of Galax, Blaine County, and Wythe County. They're going to be talking to Carroll County next week. They don't have City of Galax. They're talking to Carroll County and City of Galax next week. Specifically, their ask is it's more or less for everyone else. It's a resolution of support. For Smyth County, since we're closer to a lot of the projects that will probably be the home base for a lot of the projects. They're asking that the county consider serving as fiscal agent for the grant. And I don't have any concerns with it. I think it's going to be money in, money out type of thing. Whatever the state requires of us, we will require of Community Services Board. They're just not eligible to apply themselves. It has to be a unit of local government. I'm trying to build up some regional approaches for other things. Anyway, I thought this was a good idea for Smyth County to serve as that fiscal agent. We had a meeting earlier today with all the administrators for the region for another reason, and after that meeting I talked to everybody, and they were all extremely supportive, so I don't see any concerns with it. I wanted to at least get it on the board's radar, probably at the March 9th meeting. We'll have a draft cooperative partnership agreement for the board to consider. It may end up being the 23rd. We're not sure yet. It depends on how quickly the Community Services Board can get that put together. But I did want to at least get it on the radar and see if there's any concerns from the board first before we go too far down.
Will we, heaven forbid I should look at it this way, but will we be able to take a small amount for being administrator of that?
Well, excuse me, it's similar to the local funds. In theory, 85% has to go toward opioid mitigation, 15% can go toward administrative. What they're looking to do is try and do the 100% toward opioid mitigation so that they can have that incentive bonus. The way I see it, I think it'll be similar to what we do for the Rye Valley Water Authority or for the Tourism Corporation. So I don't think it'll be much as far as administrative duties. So I don't think it's going to tax us any. But I'd rather not, honestly, I'd rather not try and get some money just so they can get the incentive bonus.
Just asking.
That's why I presented it.
You know, we keep putting the person here and there, and all of a sudden we need a whole new staff position to handle all these things that are non-revenue producing. And not that I want it to be revenue producing, but I want it to be break even, I guess is the best way to say it.
Not lose.
Right. And you know, something good as this, maybe a little loss is not bad.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to get in where all of a sudden they've got a big mountain where all of a sudden we've got Mount Rogers Community Service Board and we're running through our books and it's killing us.
Right. No, I agree.
Okay.
So that's just information only at this point. Next item, the Planning Commission appointment. At the last meeting, it may have been the meeting in January, where we did the reappointments for the Planning Commission, maybe 3 Planning Commission members. We inadvertently, and correct if I'm wrong, we inadvertently appointed David Spence to a 4-year term where he had only agreed to a 2-year term because we're trying to get into a rotation so we don't lose a lot of Planning Commission members in 1 year, or the potential of losing a lot of Planning Commissions in 1 year. So what I'd like to do is recommend that his appointment be changed from a 4-year term back to a 2-year term to end January 31st, 2025.
That's correct.
Second. Have a motion and a second. And he's got, we had mad and quit us because we, knowing David, he might want to.
When I told him that he was appointed to 4 years, that was part of the conversation. So I promised him that I would do my best to get him to 2 years instead of
2 years and then another 4 after that then.
That's the goal. We don't know if it'll happen, but.
When you have good people on the planning commission, you want to, go back and tell him it's in perpetuity. He gets to stay there forever.
That may be a hard sell.
All right, we have a motion. I think we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? You know, I appreciate these people willing to serve on these boards, because when you're trying to appoint somebody, it is hard sometimes to find somebody willing to serve and to do it right and take the time to attend. I know of at least 1 or 2 people on the committee. I only know what they look like because I knew them before they went on the board. You know, you need to show up.
We got some good members on the planning.
Yes, we do, and we're blessed that we have enough people here in Smyth County wanting to help with our committees and with our EDA and so forth. So, having said my political announcement for today, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, likewise. Unanimous.
That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick, I guess it's a procedural question. Is there any regulation preventing or code preventing a citizen to be appointed to 2 boards at one time?
The only thing that has that requirement is the BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals. You can't serve on the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals or any other commissions because the BZA is tied to the court system.
Okay, thank you.
And you can use that as an incentive to get somebody on that board because we can't have them about anything else.
Right.
It works as a good incentive. All righty. We're up to supervisor comment time. Back to my trusty little cup. Courtney.
That's 2 in a row.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness, play the lottery, man. I may have to. I want to thank Ms. Ferguson again for coming up here and talking to us. Again, just the courage and speaking of the funds and everything with the opioid settlements and stuff, and knowing there's people here who's been through it and experienced it and you know is truly seeing the benefit of what this can be to the community. It just speaks volumes to me, and thank you for everything and congratulations with everything you went through. The other concern I had was Churchman Drive. It just seems like that has been going on for, it seems like 5 years.
Pretty close to that, yeah.
I've not been working on it that long.
Right.
I think Churchland Drive is the one that had a previous lawsuit on it.
Yeah.
Is that right, Clay?
It has, yes.
It had a previous lawsuit, and the court ordered them to clean something up. And I think there was a contempt motion because they didn't clean it up. And then at some point the case got dismissed, so I assume they moved something around and satisfied the county or the county attorney, and in that case it got dismissed.
They did just enough, yes.
Yeah.
So some of this is just additional things that is coming up. Was it waste before? I'm trying to.
They parked several campers on the road.
Yeah, so the campers are relatively new. The first round was primarily vehicles and basically a vehicle repair shop in the middle of the road. And there were several vehicles. There was a lot of basically trash, junk, discarded materials that had piled up all over the property. So it was treated as an automobile graveyard and a junkyard, and that was the initial violation. She cleaned it up just enough to basically satisfy the court. And then in my opinion, we just fell back into our old ways, with the addition now that we have the RVs that are parked.
Right.
And apparently we've got somebody living in one, and then one that's being used for storage, or if you talk to Stella, it's an art studio.
It just, I don't know, it just seems to me like if somebody's living in it and it's on a right of way, it just.
I don't know, the right of way is a different issue. We're
Yeah.
doing a zoning enforcement nuisance complaint, and my struggle where I got hung up and then stalled really was the ownership of the property, because I got to court and then I didn't have all the owners there, because it was owned by 3 sisters at one time, and one of those sisters moved to, I was New Orleans or Louisiana somewhere. She's passed away and has 2 or 3 children down there. And then, so I've got to serve everybody that owns the property. Or at least make an effort to find them, and then that's where I got stalled, is we found an obituary for the deceased sister and looked up names for the children and got phone numbers, and I called and left a message, and then that's where I've stalled at this point. And that was probably 6 months ago, you know, it's been a long time since I worked on it. But that part's my fault, you know, not chasing that and then saying, look, I can't find them, we either hire a PI or maybe we just try to there is a method to advertise in the paper to serve people by publication, but there isn't a certification that we've made an effort to find them. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to exhaust and haven't finished, so.
Well, I just think that's something we definitely need to try to stay on top of. I mean, this gentleman's been through.
Yeah, I have 2 or 3 of these cases that I've filed, and I've got to push them, and I need to get on top of them again. Yeah.
The only other couple things I want to bring up is the accessory building. I don't mean to beat this stuff to death, but you know, I agree that there's too much. It seems to me like there's too much red tape. I think if we're going to put some things in place, you know, there needs to be somewhat of a leeway for citizens to be able to just put an accessory building for a certain size, but also put in maybe some sort of restrictions for anything that may be, you know, like I say, very, very large or whatever it may be. I don't know what the answer is to that. And like I said, that's what the public hearing's for, and I just, I don't know what the right answer is on that. But, on another note, happy birthday to the county, 191 today, and again, I want to thank the staff for everything that you guys do. It doesn't go unseen, and thank you all. Thank board members for everything that they do, working through everything we have to work with, and thank you for the citizens for being here tonight and sharing your stories and information. Just be careful going home. Thank you.
All righty. I was unfortunate I drew mine second. So. In case you're wondering, I draw names out of a cup up here because I got complaints about everybody going first all the time, but drawing names, I still put Mr. Widener first. I had 2 or 3 comments. First off, I want to thank the staff and fellow board members for the cooperation we get, the information we request, things that getting done. I think it speaks well for the county. We're moving forward. I want to thank you for the citizens that take time to show up at these meetings and know what's going on. I wish more people would be here, but Leanne and Jeff, appreciate it. Crystal, Mr. Watson, good to see you back. We missed you there for a few meetings.
Yeah.
Good to see the newspaper here. We want a good article now. And my final comment is, I live in Atkins, as all of you know, and I'm driving from Marion to Atkins this afternoon. The trash on the highway, the trash in our county is terrible. We need some kind of campaign, we got a beautiful place. And to see all this trash along the highway, whole garbage bags full of trash, just, you know, if it blows out of their vehicle, stop and pick it up. I've stopped and picked up other people's trash because I knew it was going to get run over and be all over the place, but it makes me sad to see a beautiful area, and we're trying to encourage tourism, and then we have all this trash blowing around. So, notice as you drive around the amount of trash, and if it's something we can do as a group to help with that, I'd love to.
We used to do something like that. Mr. Williams organized. I don't know if you want to.
So at one point, we did have the Asana Highway program. This has been a few moons ago, but basically anybody that was put on probation would be automatically assigned to the county for a 2-mile stretch of road. We would try to find them a stretch that was as close to their house as possible. And then once every 2 weeks, they were obligated to go clean it up, Now this was in partnership with VDOT. And it was a lot of coordination amongst a lot of folks, because we had, the judge obviously had to buy into the program, probation office had to buy into the program, because if they weren't participating, then there's the whole process of revoking their probation and getting them back in front of the judge. The county's part in it was we managed the whole program. And then VDOT was the sort of the fourth part of the puzzle, in the sense that they provided the bags, the vest, and then they came along and picked up all the trash afterwards. And then for the folks that couldn't participate on the road for whatever reason, we would give them hours at the transfer station to pick up trash around it. Some would argue that it was a pretty successful program. Obviously, some thought otherwise, because ultimately it was abandoned. But that is something that has been done in the past. I'll have to check. This was actually born out of the coal fields when the Crooked Road was established. I think Mr. Kilgore came up with the whole concept that if you want to invite guests over, what do? You clean your house up. And so they cooked this up over there, and it kind of spread. And at one point, VDOT actually had a full-time employee that advocated for this program statewide. But it's been a while since I've been in touch with those folks, so I don't know how active they are in those counties now. But that's a potential option.
I like that idea. I think that's great. I agree with Charlie.
So the inmates don't do that anymore?
This is a different program than the inmates.
Yeah, 'cause they did over up through Port Valley where I live, 'cause the bags were sitting there from the bridge.
And they're starting to come back, but COVID wiped that program out. And you may be able to.
Amount and the numbers, that they're able to release at a time.
We don't get as many as we used to.
I think there's more restrictions on that.
Yeah, this are people that were not in custody. They were on probation. This is part of their citizens time, what's the word I'm looking for?
Community
service.
Right.
And it was a beautiful program, and
I remember when we had it.
yeah, y'all voted it. No offense, but when y'all voted it down after Mr. Carter stopped it, and it had to be. It's a court program, so it had to be voted to stop rather than just stopping it. And the court's going to have to approve us doing it again if we want to crank it back up.
Right. It takes full support from a bunch of players: the court, the probation office, the county, and VDOT. So if that's something you're interested in, we would need to start with all of them to see if there's a desire to start that program back up.
Do we want to, with a head nod, do we want them to at least look at what might take?
Check it out, yeah, 'cause I don't remember why it was stopped.
I can tell you exactly, but I don't.
No, see.
Yeah.
I'm actually meeting with the judge tomorrow morning at 10. I can bring it up.
Please.
Who you meeting with?
Judge Simmons.
I need to appoint with her for long.
And that's all I had. Skipping over you. Mr. Rackman?
Oh, okay. I don't have a whole lot to say other than thank the staff for what they do and the board members. I enjoy serving with everyone here. I think we all bring a different lens to the issues that we're facing, and I want to compliment everybody on how we all bring our own thoughts to it. Again, I would like to circle back to the opiate abatement program. I know that's certainly something that I deal with on a daily basis as well. I'd like to find a way to not only help the impaired individuals recover their lives, but I think it's also a great way to grow some of the healthcare professionals that can help these folks regain their lives. So I think there's a duality there to maybe help some of our people that want to go into the training and assistance of these programs to consider helping them fund their educational debt load there as well. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot else to say, but thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Ratcliffe. Lori, what do you have to say?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank Crystal for being there tonight. And I personally want to say that I've seen folks who've been in the same situation as Crystal, who have had the opportunities that she has had to make herself better and do better. And those that are in an environment where they have the support they need thrive a lot better. And then I've also seen the unfortunate circumstances where people don't have the resource they need and they just continue to be in the same cycle. So again, from an economic development standpoint, I think it's really important that we invest our funds into the lives of these people. I would much rather invest them in situations like this, like Crystal had spoke about, instead of investing it into our jail system where they're just sitting in a cell and we're not working with them to be a productive citizen anymore. And I really feel like we'll get a larger return on our investment because Crystal's a prime example of somebody taking the time to invest in that person. And now she's here making a difference in the community. And I don't want to speak for her, but I'm sure she can tell you, coming out of where she was, she doesn't take things for granted anymore. So I feel like there's probably some people in the community who take a lot for granted, who take for granted that there's jobs available and there's opportunities here, and they just move away and never come back. But people like Crystal who've been at the bottom and now see some hope and see these people investing in her. She wants to be invested here in Smith County, and that's what I want us to be mindful of as a board. That they're not just some other person addicted to drugs that has no hope. They're still good people. They're good people who just made a bad choice. And I don't think we need to just push them to the side. I really think we should take time to invest in them. So I just wanted to throw that out there as we're moving forward with some of these opioid abatement and different projects. The next thing I want to ask about is where are we with the well drilling for Conroe Community Center?
Okay, so one of the folks at our water testing lab, he and I struck up a conversation and he gave me a name for somebody in Lynchburg, I believe. I've been communicating with them by email and kind of thought that they were going to venture down here, but they are no longer communicating with me. And then ironically, Wally called me today and there was somebody drilling a well next to him at his house. And he asked if we had heard from them, and they never returned my call either. So he was actually going to drive up there and talk to them personally to see if there was any way. And I told him to do whatever he could to convince them to go to Conroe. So I haven't talked to Wally since that conversation, but hopefully he had a little luck in motivating them to go over to Conroe. But it hadn't been forgotten. It's just bottom line, they're busy, and nobody wants to go to Conroe to drill a well.
Or a class.
It's a class one. It's a class one well, and there happens to be like 20 feet of rubble that they have to go through, which is problematic for them. And so that's the hurdle that we're running into. So we're still working on it.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I was going to ask, Mr. White already brought it up, but with the Churchland Drive, I know that we get so tired of talking about these things, and I know it's not a simple process, but Churchland Drive, Will Run, and even Riverside, I don't even know if that's been taken care of yet, but are there things that take a really, really long time like this that we can maybe farm out if Scott has too much on his plate? I don't know how to address the issue. It's just been going on for too long, and I know tracking down somebody in Louisiana and reading obituaries is timely, but what else can we do to make the process faster?
Yeah, we could do that. You could hire another counsel to chase the zoning violations if that's what you want to pursue.
Or the PI.
I can hire a private investigator to find somebody down there.
Well, I know you were handed a lot over that was already behind, like, you were already 5 to 8 years behind when you started, so it wasn't really in your favor. So I'm just trying to figure out how we can help push these things along that are taking
Yeah,
forever.
part of it's management on me, but you can hire outside counsel to do those. Like, I'd like another shot at these at least, and then if you get another one coming up, maybe we explore that possibility to say, is this something I can chase and pursue quickly, or do we need to hire another firm to kind of help out with these zoning violations or nuisance complaints? But yes, that's an option. It's your pleasure. You hire counsel and you want to hire someone else to pursue something like a litigation issue or something like that. You are welcome to do so.
Okay, and that's no shot at you, like I said,
I
I
understand.
understand from the get-go, you were already 5 to 8 years behind because of some of the things that weren't already taken care of by the time you came on board, so.
I will tell you that it's very hard to hire attorneys as well. I know you were having a hard time hiring people, but I've had that same problem, but anyway,
Gotcha.
just so you know.
Okay. Thank you. And then the last thing I just want to tell everybody, thank you for letting me join virtually tonight. I have a sick little one who needed me here at home, so, thank you for allowing me to do that. And as always, I appreciate the board and the staff for all the hard work, and also for the folks in attendance tonight who are being actively involved. We appreciate folks like you who come out and want to stay in tune with what's going on. And everybody have a good night and be safe.
Mr. Call.
Well, thanks staff, they do a good job. We'll keep them, I reckon, for the most part. Thank everybody for coming, and again, congratulations. And keep up your guard. I know these people heard it, I've got 5 people in my family was involved in drugs. We buried 3 of them. So, so-called friends, don't trust them. Keep your guard up all the time, you're doing great. Keep it up. Hope everybody has a good trip home. God bless each and every one. Be careful.
And batting cleanup, Mr. Sturdy.
We'd just like to welcome the Attorney General to Smyth County on Tuesday. He'll be here as they're coming to learn about our fentanyl awareness day we did with our schools. And we've got several big events planned for them. And also, once again, I reiterate, we received a $200,000 lab school planning grant. And when that's submitted, we hope to know within just a month or so, hopefully, whether we receive the implementation grant, which would be about $5 million. And that would include schools from Bristol City all the way to Wythe County up the I-81 corridor, which means that students that will be going into the healthcare profession could receive instruction from Marion School of Health Sciences while they were still in high school. So this would be a great opportunity to get more people in whatever healthcare field that we may have, which I think will be a great thing for our county. So I also would like to reiterate those thoughts about the staff and what a great job they do here, and appreciate the work this board does with the school board and other boards in our county to work together as a team. And I'd like to put a big shout out to the town of Chilhowie this week, as they've helped us out in a really bad water situation. I sent their town manager a text and also put it on Twitter, and it's got retweeted several times. So just thanking them for being I'll let Sean tell you. You said they dropped what they were doing to help us out. Is that right?
Yeah, so they're getting ready to undergo a major renovation. So they're going to shut their plant down for 4 months, I believe. And so this week was the test period. What happens when they shut the plant down and go to another connection with the Washington County Service Authority? And we found out on our end what happened. We lost a pressure reducing valve and a few other things and had several blowouts. They undid what they were doing, and I think it took quite a long time and a big effort for them that they didn't have to do, but we appreciated it.
And I thank them for being a great community partner, but thanks all the board members for all working together, and everyone be safe, and God bless everyone.
All right, it's supervisor time. Now we've heard from everybody but Lisa, Kendra, and Adriana. And either one of y'all want to say anything? I was going to say, come on, give us an update on EPA or EDA.
Well, that's on the spot right there. How about I put together a nice presentation and bring it back to the next meeting?
Well, that's next week.
Well, I'll just say everyone's expressed their appreciation to the staff. I'd like to express my appreciation to all the board members.
Absolutely. I appreciate
Pleasure to
that.
work with you.
And don't hesitate when you got problems or whatever, let us know. We can't fix things we don't know about. Same for the citizens. If we don't know about it, it's hard to fix sometimes, so. Don't feel like you're complaining, you're just stating a fact, so. Having said that, now we need to go into closed session. Thanks everyone for being here. Sorry to kick you out, but I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
You need to read it. No, you can read that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to enter into closed session of Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, A3, discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purpose or the disposition of publicly held real property regarding update on building study, implementation, Atkins EMS, and Mountain Empire Industrial Park property. That's the motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion to second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Sounds like it was unanimous. We are now in public session. Turn the recorder off.